That's it.
Hello, Linda. You caught me with my mouth full.
Linda,
How are
Linda.
you, Linda? I was trying to grab a bite before we started and I got caught. We were just talking about how my husband brought me some work to do today.
Oh,
He brought
so
me, he was so excited. He said, come here, I got something to show you. I got in there and looked at this big old piece of meat. I don't know how to cook.
wow, 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 wow. Wow,
Linda, I hope you're doing well, sweetheart.
I sure wish I was there. I would hook him up.
I wish you were here too, because you could get the grill and cook it for me. Because I don't know how
Hmm.
to cook it. He brought me some
Wow.
work.
Where you find that tomahawk at?
Grocery store.
You still got
Really?
food in your mouth. He's just got food in his mouth. Don't talk. Don't talk.
I found it at the grocery store.
That's rare. A
Yeah.
regular grocery store?
Yeah, Lowe's Foods.
Then he went back in the back, bought the whole slab out and let me see it.
Do you guys have a
Wow.
Lowe's Foods down there?
Yes, we do.
Good. Well, they got him. Hey, Dee Dee. Dee Dee called just before we, it's about an hour ago. Yeah. She called to say hello this morning and take George some lunch. Hey, Buzz. I'm glad you're here.
What's up, Buzz?
And hey, James D.
Buzz and James, Linda Lee.
All right, you guys. I don't even know what we're going to talk about today, but we're going to talk.
Yes, we are. We definitely gonna do that.
What did you preach on last night? What did you preach on last night?
You do you really want to know?
I do.
I talked about the shaking of systems.
The shaking of systems.
Yeah.
Huh. Sounds interesting. Give me a little few pointers on it. What did you say?
Well, pretty much. It's a spinoff from doing the series topic, um, becoming a world changer, and so based off again, it ties into our theme, living in the atmosphere of change, and so. When we talk about systems, I'm not talking about the mechanical things. I'm talking about once again different ideologies
Uh-huh.
and cultures and paradigms and stuff that is trying to be forced upon us again, to follow their way of thinking. Again, we talk about religious systems and dealing with rituals and traditions and things that we're normally doing and patterns within our world. And so, through all that's going on as we're watching, there's been a lot of uh, disruption in systems of doing things.
Yeah.
And so, again, it ties into there is a paradigm shift
Yeah.
and so forth. And it was funny to me because when I discuss about religious systems, and I don't know if y'all heard this as of yet, and I don't know if I should even mention his name, but one of the most well-known uh, pastors or spiritual leaders within the Christian circle began to share his progressive thinking or his involvement coming to the reality of the topic of teaching tithing uh, within the church.
Okay.
And so I found that very odd during the time of my teaching, and then I did go back and watch the whole thing that the message that he taught that caused a stirring within the Christian community.
What
Uh,
kind of stirring did it cause? I haven't heard anything about it. What kind of stirring?
okay, well, I guess I could say this is common knowledge. It's all on YouTube.
Can I hold you right there a minute?
Uh-huh.
I just came from the barber shop in Greensboro, and while I'm sitting there waiting, one of the barbers said, called the name of the preacher, and said they're having this trouble about tithing.
So you
And
heard the conversation.
I didn't know nothing about it. I just heard the conversation in the barber shop, and they were talking about some real wealthy, popular preacher teaching on tithing and all that stuff. And I didn't say much to him about it. I just talked about how things are changing in the church world,
Mhm.
Hmm.
and that it was necessary for that to take place, because some picked up the Bible and went, and now they feel like they are experts at this thing. And so I told them that the damn panic, or the pandemic, whatever you want to call it, was not an evil thing, but it was something that came about to purge the universe and the church. And because there's some preachers in the pulpit need to get out, but then there's some of them have lost a lot of people through the damn panic, and they won't admit it. So until they finally, and watch this now, until they finally admit it, it's going to stay around and finish the job. As soon as these preachers humble themselves and choose to go the right path, it will move, presence of God will move the damn panic out of their life. But if they don't stay in the right mode and talk right, spirit will not authenticate it.
That's true. That's true.
And to add to that, Dad, I really don't see what all the fuss is all about, and it's crazy because I did, and I started watching it day before yesterday, but I had a lot of stuff going on, and so this morning I actually watched the whole message and the second message that came to it, and he was talking about the great misunderstanding, and that was the title of the message, and so I appreciate what he said, and this is going to may upset a lot of people in those circles, but I appreciate what he said in the beginning of his message. He made the statement that blessed me. It really blessed me. The whole entire message blessed me as well. And he made the statement. He said, what I'm about to share is going to cause some reactions. And he even mentioned some of y'all may walk away and so forth and so on. But he said, I want y'all to understand I am still yet growing. All right. And this preacher, and of course, Bishop know who I'm talking about. He's been around for a very, 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 very long time. He's probably one of the most considered generals in this America when it comes to Christendom.
He is.
But he made a statement. He said, all the tapes, all the books that I wrote on that topic, I want you all to take it and burn it, get rid of it. Because he said, I taught it in error. And in essence, basically what he was saying, he has now evolved or come to a place of awareness. You see what I'm saying? Which would bless me because, of course, that's what we've all been talking about.
That's what we've been talking about.
And he said, now I do not apologize for all the things that I taught and the direction I went through the years in the beginning, because if it wasn't for me going through what I went through then, I would not be where I am now.
Yes.
And that blessed me because that was a statement you made to me, Mom, when after the broadcast a couple of weeks ago, and you shared with me concerning my real function in the earth. And I made a statement as if all those years I had made mistakes or I was in error, and it wasn't. We had to take that path and that journey to get where we are now. And so if we're going to always use the scripture out of Romans chapter 8, I believe it's verse 28, when it says, all things work together for the good. And it says some things, every stage that we go through in our life, we're going through for a reason to help us on our journey of awakening so we can grow, evolve, and develop. And he made that statement. And his whole concept of his message dealt with grace. He was saying when we preached and taught that topic of tithing, we were teaching it from a legalistic point of view.
True.
If you did not do that, you would end up with a curse.
Exactly.
You, God would do these things to you, and so forth and so on. And of course, we have been sharing that is not the real nature of God. God is love. And so he broke down all these different scenarios, and I'm literally looking at it saying, I wish I could talk to him and say thank you.
Yes.
Just like I did with Carlton Pearson when I ran into him last year. I wanted to thank him for all that he had contributed to the body of Christ, even when they turned their backs on him. He
Mm-hmm.
came to a place of revelation, a
Mm-hmm.
place of enlightenment that he realized the love of God more than he ever did before.
Yes.
And this
Yes.
is what,
Yes.
I mean, everybody know who we're talking about, but
Well, not really, because I don't know. And
well, I'm just saying, like I
that's
said,
all right.
YouTube or whatever.
Yeah.
It's Creflo Dollar.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Creflo Dollar. If everybody watched the whole message in itself, listen to it, because see, we have a tendency to be so critical of other people. We don't listen with an open heart, an open mind, and we certainly don't listen with an open heart.
It's true. That's
And
true.
so it was big of him, and I celebrate him no more. It was big of him to be that transparent and to be open that,
Mm-hmm.
hey, though I have been teaching this for years, and he's been in ministry for years, he
And
have
you
come
know,
to a place of awareness more
and
than before.
I am just, and I'm like you. I'm very happy that and glad that the church is coming around. It's not coming around all the way with everyone, but it's finally coming around to thinking outside of the legalistic box and judgmentalism that we've been plagued with, and coming into the realization that God is not punitive. That's the main thing, that God isn't punitive and trying to punish, and we're doing most of the punishment to ourselves.
Mhm.
And so
And I
I'm
love what
glad.
he said that the two factors that sustains religion is fear and guilt.
Yes.
Those are
Yes.
the two pillars and the foundation of religion, fear and guilt. And we know this coming up in that
Mm-hmm.
same
Mm-hmm.
circle. It
Mm-hmm.
was always like you said, God gonna punish you. And so we try to base our whole life trying to do the right things over and over and over, dotting every I, crossing every
Mm-hmm.
T, and we
Yeah.
was doing it in fear.
Well,
Because
if
we
you
were
go back
told if
through
you don't do this, you're going to hell.
exactly, and you know that, and that same mentality is not simply, and it's not just restricted to the church, because my sister and I were talking on last night about her job, and we kind of narrowed down that the conversation from all of her and the coworkers is coming from fear and guilt, because they're afraid if they don't meet this particular standard or live up to this particular standard on the job, they're faced with all of these different things they got to do. If they don't do them, this is what's going to happen. This is what's being said to them every day. If you don't do this, this is what's going to happen. And then if you don't get it done, then the guilt of not having it done and all of the blame of their things failing falls on them. So it's the same system.
Exactly.
It's the same judgment based system, and
Exactly.
not only just judgment based on things like what we've heard and read, but we've been judging ourselves the same way, and that's where the fear and the guilt is coming from. So I want to say this before we move forward, because I know Buzz has mentioned something, and I wanted to acknowledge that we did see that, Buzz, and we're not overlooking it. But he just says he wants to move away from negative energy and complaining, but he doesn't know how, and he doesn't have many friends. Any suggestions? We'll try to address it as we go, Buzz. Okay. And then Linda says everything is a stepping stone to come to the cornerstone. Thank
I
you.
like that. I like that.
Thank you, Linda. And you remember the cornerstone is the stone that the builders
That's
rejected,
it. And
but it
that's funny because that was in my notes for last night, and I never got to it in Ephesians chapter 2, and it talks about the everything is built on the foundations of the apostles and the prophets, Jesus Christ
mhm,
being the
mhm,
chief
mhm,
cornerstone and
mhm,
so forth.
mhm,
But but
mhm.
but I can feel Buzz.
Buzz.
Um, but I mean, we got to remember the world or this dimension that we currently in the physical realm, where we live or reside physically. You can't escape negativity. I've tried it for years. I had that conversation on yesterday as I, was reflecting back the years in my journey through ministry, and I was just sharing with the individual that yes, um, at Bowl we had some exciting, some great, memorable times where we really experienced our Father. We really
Sure,
did. The
sure.
miracles were reality,
Yes.
and then all of a sudden, we got stuck there. All
Mhm.
right. And so I can kind of feel a certain kind of way of
Mhm.
because I've dealt with much betrayal. I,
Yeah. Yeah.
I've dealt with what Jesus said, a prophet is without honor in his own home. And
Mhm.
when you're a person that really loves and gives your heart to people, it can hurt. It can really hurt. You can ask the question, but in the midst of what Creflo Dollar was saying in his message, I realized, and I'm gonna be transparent. I realized not knowing that I was doing it, but I was walking in a form of self-righteousness. And, and what he
That's
just
a big thing to admit and to face about
exactly
yourself.
because the
Yes.
way he described it made sense. When we go to a place of where we're trying to dot every I and cross every T, that we expect, well, because like dealing with the tithes, because I gave my 10%, God, why am I going through this? I'm not doing nobody wrong. I'm not doing
Mhm.
I'm doing everything according to your word. And then we're expecting these certain
Mhm.
results.
Mhm.
That's self-righteousness.
Yes.
We
Yes.
should understand we're according to again scripture, we're saved through grace. So he was talking about
Yes.
the grace of God. And
Yes.
so again, we should never expect because we're dotting every I, crossing every T, or we're so righteous that we should expect certain things in our lives, because we got to remember Jesus said it best. The sun shine on the just and the
And
unjust.
unjust.
The
Yes.
rain rains on the just and the unjust. So just because I may dot every I according to being legalistic
Mhm. Mhm.
does not exempt me from situations that would happen, not just in what we call sinners' lives or wicked people lives. It's going to happen to all of us.
Sure, sure. I was thinking about too what Buzz was saying, and I can relate to that. Not of wanting to move away from negative energy, but like you said, you can't escape it, and then you come into a place of complaining about what you're dealing with. But I thought about, and Linda can probably attest to this because I sent her an email about on Tuesday night we were all ready to do our live stream. And man, these storms came through here like mm, it was like the end of the world almost here. And you could there was the rain was so it was so much rain you couldn't even see through it. That's how much it was, sheets of rain and wind and thunder and lightning, and so our power went out. I mean, and here it is. It's as my husband and I say, it's hotter than a fat lady's girdle here. And so when your AC goes out, I mean, that's not a easy. That's not something you want to deal with.
That's
And
right.
so the house was cool for a little while, but it got past 7, got past 8, got past 9, and it started to get a little warm up in here. So
Mhm.
around about 8:30 or 9, we got in the Jeep, which felt good because it had air conditioning. And half of the side of Kernersville was out of power. So we knew we weren't going to get to go on live. So we just went out, got us a couple of sandwiches that weren't good, and sat there in the Jeep in the parking lot of the grocery store and ate it. And came back to the house. Of course, the lights were still off and it was still getting warm. I had the opportunity at that point. I could resist it and resent it, but I said, okay, it's warmer upstairs than downstairs. So I'm sleeping downstairs. He decides he's going to sleep upstairs. So I'm ready. I've already stripped down to the lightest clothing I could wear. And I decided I'm going to sleep on the couch. And I laid down. This was about 11 o'clock. And I laid down on the sofa. And baby girl decided she'd stay downstairs with me. And the minute I laid down and I resolved myself to the fact, okay, this is what I've got to go through tonight, and it's going to be okay. The lights came on.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like I could have spent that entire time resenting. I could have spent that entire time going, man, I hate this. But it wouldn't have done any good. And so I don't know. I can't say that I've arrived at a spiritual point where I'm more advanced and I just didn't have a problem with it. I don't know why. I just didn't have a problem with it. And it could have come from practicing not having a problem with things that are coming up. Practicing when those negative things take place, allowing them to take place without resisting, without resenting. And then they don't feel so bad. They
Mm-hmm.
really don't feel so bad. And then, as you say, lo and behold, the lights came on.
And that's funny because we went through a similar thing about a month ago, almost a month ago. Our AC started acting crazy. It was the hottest week
Mhm.
of the year, and we, we dealt with it that day. But I felt that part of me wanted to rise up, to be
Mhm.
resentful, and I said, no, no. I had to say to myself, these things happen.
Yeah.
Certain things happen that are uncontrollable. So
Mhm.
why am I going to get upset? Why am I going to get angry? Because that's not the normal Norman. And then we'll be
It's
quick.
living in the atmosphere of change.
Exactly. Then we'll be quick to say, this ain't nothing but the devil. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And so forth. And then last night, because Dad had called me yesterday and he had shared with me what happened with y'all Tuesday and stuff.
Mhm.
As last night doing my broadcast, it kept going in and out, all these interruptions. The Wi-Fi was doing whatever it was doing. People was reaching out to my wife. It's freezing. What's going on? And all I could do was laugh.
Yeah.
And I continue with the
Yeah.
broadcast. And
Yeah.
I said, I'm sorry, but this is out of my hands because I knew that in our area, the company, the carrier for the cable and the Wi-Fi stuff, they're going around making changes, and that is
Oh,
affecting a lot of other people's service
yeah.
around us.
Yeah. Yeah. But we're so dependent on these things, and when they're taken away from us, how we adjust? I mean, it's I don't even know how we would manage. I thought about my grandparents who had their own farm and lived on the farm, and they didn't have electricity when I was a little kid. They had lamps and wood stoves, and their cooling was sitting under a shade tree with a fan in their hand, and a piece of watermelon or something that's cold, or cold cup of well water. That was how they managed.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so we've gotten really, really spoiled. But to jump past all of that, we were talking. Renee and I were talking. My sister, we were talking about how that the mind just keeps going on and on and on. And she was asking, how do you just stop it? How can you just stop it? But since you knew the answer that you don't just stop it, you can't just stop it because it's the mind that's upset with itself.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's the mind upset with what's happening.
And one of I always use the scenario concerning with computers in relationship to the mind, and this is how I deal with it. I understand that my mind is going to put out what's ever been put in it or trained to do throughout the years. And we know the statement, we are the product of our environment. All the sum total of things that was in our environment as we was coming up, it was programming, and it was putting stuff in our minds that later on, once our mind developed, just like a computer, and they talk about the power of the AI right now, that is what our mind is doing. And so again, it is really it's simple, which y'all say all the time. It's going to do what it's going to do. Just sit back and observe it. Do
Yeah.
not react. And
And
that's what we do.
and that's the hardest thing to do, I think, for those of us who are determined to walk this path, is to distance ourselves from our thought life. And because we do get, it has so much influence and effect upon us, because the thoughts that come with, they have interest, we have interest in them. If the thought came that of something we weren't interested in, we wouldn't even listen to it. We didn't even be caught up in it. We could just put it aside. But because they carry the interest, and they carry the interest because they are relative to our conditioning, like you said. Those thoughts that come bombard us are relative to our conditionings, and so it's of interest to us, and so it catches us, and we get snowballed into it. You want to say something?
Okay. I'm listening to everything that's been said. I'm reading it. There is not a solution for anything that anybody said, but I'm going to say that it is a solution. Evil disappears when the Christ self is replaced, or replace Satan with the Christ self. And that is the only thing that will offset the false self and evil.
Okay.
Satan is the result of not seeing your true self. The answer to all that you're asking for to change is only answered by seeing, not doing, not changing. Seeing the true self. He cast out the spirits with his word, change it. He cast out the spirits by his presence, his person, or his hood. Okay? Personhood. Now,
Okay.
you can say, change the way you word it. I can say, it's raining hard. I can come back and say, it's raining like a cow wetting on a flat rock. I'm saying the same thing, but I'm saying it different.
That's right.
I'm
That's
using
right.
negative things now. You can say somebody.
The image.
You can say somebody flatulated, or you can say somebody passed gas,
Or you say somebody farted.
or did it. Okay. You can say car,
Or you can
or you can say
auto.
automobile. Okay. You can say, like the old people said, look at that boy on that wheel. You see two wheels, but that's all you see. Then somebody said, no, that's not a wheel, that's a bicycle. You can say the difference between a woman, a lady, or a Fräulein.
Or a girl.
Or a girl. Now, here's what I found out about spirit. The actual us, capital S, us, capital S, us, A, capital A, us. Okay.
Capital A.
Us, what, US. Okay, us. See how we change the words around, change the letter around?
Go ahead. I'm just trying to keep up.
Okay, all right. One of the things you do with God and yourself, you don't try to keep up. I use that right there because that's what will cause your mind to kick in, trying to keep up. All right, now. I can go say, I went to get my hair cut. I can say I went to the barber shop.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got my face cleaned up, or you can say I shaved.
Yeah.
You can say there's a tractor and a trailer. Well, what is the tractor? The tractor is the part where the driver sits. The trailer is what is pulled behind it. But if I would say to you, the trailer and the tractor is hooked together by a cab or a fifth wheel. You don't know what that is because you never heard that word before. But it's describing that the whole thing is a truck. But I say, well, what the truck, the front part of it, the back part ain't the truck, is it? If you put it all together, a tractor and trailer truck.
Yeah.
Okay. When you decide, here's another one. I want somebody to interpret my dream. What I would say to them, if you want to find more about the dream, change the way you approach it. Now, rebuking evil is by seeing your real self. Waking up will kill evil. This is the great exchange.
Yes.
We're talking about exchanging verbalization, when I tell people that if you will say the most amazing thing, the most offset thing that you can say about who you are, go beyond being the righteousness of God, go
Mhm.
beyond being a child of God, go beyond being born again, put it all in a box.
Mhm.
If you're on the front porch and they don't allow shoes to be worn, don't even talk about feet at all. If you're gonna say
Mhm.
feet, change the way you said it. Changing the way you say things in the area of verbalization will cause your eternal self to consciously come forward. If you don't change it, you got to be radical enough to change it. If you don't change it, or if he don't show the change and how to apply the approach, you can start off. Here's it. I can be lovable to her. She can be sweet. Give me anything she got on. Oh, that was a song that said, well, I can't sing it. My cousin used to sing his old bad song, so I better not say that. But in the song, he said, I give you anything in this whole wide world, baby, if you talk to me right. I'm going to say it. That's another way he said it. You talking right, and you know you're going to get some sugar and say the wrong thing, and sugar done froze, done melted, and going out the door.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now, I'm saying this the church is trying to change themselves and remove all evil instead of waking up to their true identity.
That's true.
Mhm.
That's true.
Now, that's the answer to Buzz. That's the answer to all everybody online. Take it from me. I
That's
was in
the
the barber
reason.
shop
That's the
today.
reason for suffering, isn't it?
Yeah, you're
Mhm.
suffering because, like this guy said, I was telling him in the barber shop, he was driving his car and he was running all red lights. And the police stopped and said, Sir, don't you know you running red light? He said, No, I'm not. I run red lights and I stop on green. I had a cousin, he got his license. He's supposed to go to a meeting. He's going up a one-way street the wrong direction. Police stops and said, Sir, don't you know you going the wrong way? You're driving up a one-way street. He said, No, sir. He said, I thought I was late for the meeting and everybody was coming back.
But it's funny. But it's funny that you said that because that is the power of perception. Once again, and then when you mentioned about the red, because you know that was a part within a movie, the new Doctor Strange movie when they was dealing with the multiverse. He was about to cross the street, but in this new world or new universe, go meant the red light meant to go, and the green light meant to
Remember
stop,
that.
I
and
didn't say
so
that,
forth.
but
And
I'm
so
Yeah.
yeah,
um,
yeah.
but I love that what you were saying concerning, the different way that we say things. And it made me think about when I was coming up as a little boy in our culture or our home and environment, you can never use the word lie. You would get beat for saying,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
stop that line or whatever. A child can use the word lie.
Yeah.
Or we had to use a word that they made up called fibbing.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Or a
And
story. Or a story. Yeah.
That
or
was the
telling a story, correct. And so that is what I am noticing, that we're having these conflicts with one another, not understanding that each one of us, we've come up in different environments and cultures, and now because you're not doing it the way that I was taught to do
Yeah.
it, then
Yeah.
you're wrong.
Yeah.
And we got to get beyond that place of being right or wrong. You see what I'm saying? We got to get to a place of understanding that we are different, that we all came up different ways of doing things and so forth, and even our
Yeah.
language.
Yeah.
You see what I'm
Yeah.
saying? And I think
Especially our language.
language.
say
Especially
something,
our language.
I could say something within my family, you know, and no one would be offended. No one would be offended at what I said or nothing. Even the way I talk, I'm loud, whatever. No one would be offended. But
Mm-hmm.
to another group of people, that
Yeah.
would be very offensive
Yeah.
to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so what we don't understand, we cause people to struggle and to suffer when we're trying to force them to fit into their own paradigm or culture in order to
And
be accepted.
and we cause ourselves to suffer when we're trying to fit into someone else's paradigm. And that and
Exactly.
response to Buzz, part of the suffering is coming from trying to be like everyone else. And
Mhm.
I realize that I've done that. I've been guilty of that myself. Trying to be like everyone else causes so much suffering because at that point you don't like yourself.
When I was
Exactly.
when my body was growing up and my mind was trying to keep up with it, there used to be a guy to come to the moonshine house where I lived, and he'd always call my aunt. Her name was Edith Shore, but he called her Miss. Um, what do you call it? I said her name just plain today. Um, not Miss Desbacher, but he called her all kinds of names other than. Uh, I'll get it in a minute, but he called her something different. And when I was at the funeral where my uncle died, this man touched me and turned me around, and he had on a hat that when I used to look at him when I was little, I called him Little Hat. He had one of the little Buster Keaton hats on, you know. He said, "You know who I am?" I said, "No, I don't." He said, "I'm Little Hat." I said, "Oh yeah, I remember Little Hat. I know Little Hat." Now, this is another one. My uncle name, they called him Buck, but his real name was Shoba Shore.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that was his name. And he couldn't write, so he made an X. If you didn't understand what was going on with him when you talked to him or get him to sign a paper, he put an X on that. You would say, you still didn't put your name on that, but that's what he was. He was X.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, yeah.
Now,
I know people that do that today.
yeah,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
look, here's another
yeah,
one.
yeah.
There was a guy that used to come to my house, lived across the street. His wife's name was Clara, and his name was, they call him Doodlebug. And Doodlebug Anthony was what they called him. And when he would go to talking and he gets upset with his wife Clara, he said, what no, what no? Look at that. What she slapped him beside his head and said he wasn't going out that night to get drunk and party. She slapped him. He looked around at everybody and said, "What you call it? What you call it? What you call it? What you call it? Did you see what you call it just did to me? What you call it?" And I all the years I thought he was saying, "What you call it?" He was saying, "What you call it? What you call it?" He was saying what you call her, but he said, what no, smack me. We couldn't understand his word because he was saying slang word.
Mhm.
What you call it? What you call it? He said, "Don't you know? Did you see what she just did?"
That's what he was
That's what
communicating.
he was communicating. What you call it? What you call it? What you call it? Slap me. And I asked his daughter was twins, Brenda and Linda. I said, "What did your daddy keep saying? What you call it?" He said, "What you call her?" She slapped me. That's what he was saying. And he was something.
Oh my God. Let me acknowledge a few people
Mhm.
on here. We're talking all around the circles today, but I hope you're getting something out of it. Deborah, she spent an hour with us yesterday on
Yes,
a
she
Zoom,
did.
a private Zoom. It was so wonderful being with her
It
and
was
getting to talk to
absolutely
her.
good.
We had a wonderful time. I just want to acknowledge her and let her know that we see her here. Buzz, we're still dealing with what you're saying. We're dealing with it because it's real life, and what you're saying is real life, and this is where everything is. It happens to all of us. This happens to all of us. And then there's Linda. She's saying our mind is like the obnoxious roommate in our head. You can listen to it or ignore it
That's right.
and choose God's grace.
That's
That's
right.
That is
exactly
so
right.
true. Well said. Well
Well
said.
said, Linda. And there's my sweetheart in Denmark. There's Sinette. Hey, sweetie, I'm glad you're with us today.
Mm-hmm.
And feel free to comment. There's Ollie. Hey, Ollie, thinking about you. It's too hot to play golf, man. The only solution is the
Oh, I didn't
awakening.
know Ollie played golf. I got to get up with Ollie.
Oh
Yeah,
man,
all this so hot. It's hot in
Ollie
I
it's
gotta
loves
bring
hot out
when
there,
I
golf.
come
man.
there next time. I gotta bring my golf clubs with me.
Oh Lord,
Yeah.
it's hotter than the prostitute doorknob out there.
Oh
Okay.
yeah, it's hot now.
That's a little graphic,
Well,
but
that's
yeah,
all right. You get a
that's a little
picture.
graphic. But yes, Ollie loves golf. He's in fact, he's a pretty good golfer too.
I
From
gotta
what
get
I've
with
heard, he's got
Ollie on
quite a
that.
few trophies and all of this. He just had a trip to Mexico and got back not long ago.
He come
He,
back in
he
Spanish.
need
Mhm.
to come down in this area, especially in Myrtle Beach, where we got all of these golf courses.
He may have been down there.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he knows about it. But I'm glad you're with us today, Ollie. Thank you so much for being with us. Deborah says, uh, "We become. I can't. What's the BC? I don't know what BC is. we all can lose BC because I don't know what that means, Deborah. You have to help me.
Yeah,
We all we all
now,
can lose because of lack of acceptance. I think that's what
Yeah, that's
she's
what it is.
saying.
Mama, that's funny.
Mhm.
That put that back with her. And let
Yeah.
me explain to you why that's funny. Because that
Well,
deals with something that Dad just said. We're dealing with a generation right now. Their language it is very difficult,
it's
especially when it comes to texting. Because my kids could be texting me these abbreviations, and I'm like, "What
no,
in the
no,
Yeah.
world
no.
are they talking about?" So we're just discovering some of the abbreviations and exactly what what they all mean.
Well, let me tell you a funny story. A funny story back. This has been a couple of years back. Well, several years back, and I would text one young lady that's you remember Brandy. Brandy was kind of like our goddaughter growing up in church, and Brandy texted me, and it was something that I don't remember what it was about, but I texted LOL because I thought it meant lots of love.
That is funny. That is funny.
I was just LOL is lots of love to me.
Wow.
Oh
Now
my
that is funny.
God.
And they got to come out. They got to put out a book or something with all these abbreviations. Because I have to text my kids back and ask, "What in the world are you talking about?"
And Vincent said, "Hey, Vincent, I'm glad you're here." Vincent in California, he says, "Y'all got to catch up. Lots of love."
It is funny because I also discovered. See, I use things oftentimes when I'm texting all caps,
Yeah.
and I found out when you are texting people with all caps, it is taken as if you are screaming at them, and I did not know that.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
I did not
Yeah,
know that.
Dad likes to send
Even
all
when
his
you use the
messages in all
exclamation
caps.
marks, I found that out when you type in all caps and exclamation marks, they take it as why you screaming at me.
Now you know. Because he types all his stuff in caps.
I was doing the same thing.
Oh my God. Vincent says, "Stay in the know." Yeah, yeah. We gotta catch up. We gotta lots of love. Honestly, lots of love. That's funny. My ears are hurting. We're laughing so hard. Let's see.
They used to call a term in Western the Great Divide.
Yeah, yeah.
Now we're talking about the Great Exchange.
Mm,
Now,
mm.
every one of us online will eventually come to a place of the definition translated to you based on the many evolutions that you've ever had. So, based on your evolutions of where you wore a different suit, we wore the suit of Jesus' body. We wore the suit of every patriarch in the Bible on down through Rooter to Tutor. But at the same time, you have to understand that this is an infinite conversation, and we're using this dimensional word to describe the indescribable infinite
Yes, yes.
event. There will come a place where everybody will have to, in one time or 1 week, and the earth, I don't know how it happened. This earth has been chosen to be one of the most prestigious, outrageous colleges,
Earth School.
Earth School
Mhm,
for transcending
mhm,
and
mhm.
having and waking up to the great divine or the great divide. Now, the answer to this thing of getting rid of evil, I said to the Lord one time, I want all sin cast out of my church. I don't want no more in there. He said, "You'll be the first one to
First
get
one
there."
out.
Yes, yes. Now,
And
I wanted to mention what Deborah says. She says, "How do we create a harmonious society out of so many kinds of people? The key is tolerance, the one value that is indispensable in creating the community." And that's by Barbara Jordan.
I
okay,
I like that when she said, and I talked about that actually on last night. We have a problem with celebrating being different. And
Yes, and I was about to say that we should
yeah,
celebrate our
we
differences.
should celebrate the fact that we are all different. And so, of course, dealing with the group and circle that I often minister in, I have to remind them. I said, now, do y'all not consider yourself the body of Christ? And even Paul made reference of that in 1 Corinthians chapter 12. The eyes does not resemble the ear, but they have need of one another. That
Yes.
my hand does not resemble my feet, but they have need of one another. And so when they are attached and they come together and they're different and their functions are different as well, now you have a body or a community that understands each person is very important in the scheme of things. And
Yeah.
that's what we have to
Yeah.
understand. We
Yeah.
are different for a
Yeah.
reason.
Yeah. And I'll use us as an example. We're like night and day. The two of us are so different. As a matter of fact, when we saw Jesus the first time years ago, like he said, we saw him come down the stairs and he spoke to us, stay in the way. We both had the cloth or the a magnification of the cloth that he was wearing. He saw it as, and it flashed in our eyes. He saw it as a square. I saw it as a round piece. And
Mhm.
that's because we are so different. How I see the same thing, but how I see it is different. He sees the same thing, but how he sees it is different. So we have we know each other's strengths, we know each other's weaknesses. And so the two of us together make make things work better because we play on that. We
Mhm.
play on that instead of competing. We use it, and I'm not trying to be him. He's not trying to be me, and so
Exactly. That's good.
it's allowing, and that's what Deborah was mentioning. It's allowing each other to be different
Hmm.
and loving that difference.
I
Exactly.
am, I am, you are, we are each other without any change.
Without any change.
You don't have
Yes.
to. What we're discussing online right now has nothing to do with change at all.
No, it doesn't really.
It has nothing to do with finding out how to change somebody that's been giving you a rough time. Jesus did not try to change Judas.
No, it
He
didn't.
just told him what needed to be said,
Mhm.
and above and beyond that, he left it alone.
Yeah.
I am not interested in trying to save anybody, change anybody, show anybody. All I'm doing is point my finger.
And I'm getting to the place I'm not even interested in trying to
And doing,
change myself.
I'm through with that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't kick my own.
I'm learning to accept myself.
I done told my.
Exactly. So that goes back to the message of just being.
Yeah.
I'm just being.
Yeah.
And you can be and be evil.
And Ollie says harmony is the effect of knowing the self. And
Mhm.
that's a self with a capital S, knowing the self that is not conditioned.
Mhm.
The you that is not you.
I went downstairs in my little bitty body because my brothers and sisters didn't have food to eat, and I didn't have big enough sense to not to go up there eating anything, and I did.
Mhm, mhm.
And they said they wanted me to go downstairs and get some of the food down there and steal it and bring it to them. I got a sandwich
Yes.
and I pretended like I was going to eat, but my aunt said, I am not going to work for food down here that's for you to take upstairs and feed your brothers and sisters. That was the way they were. Okay,
Mhm,
that's the day.
mhm.
All right. They were trying to get me to change, and I was caught in the middle. I'm caught between being helping them versus doing what I'm supposed to do or not do at where I live
Doing something good
downstairs.
for your brothers
It
and
was
sisters
yeah.
versus abiding by the rules of the
Well,
house that
I
you
was
lived
saying
in.
what's good for the
Yes.
goose ain't good for the gander.
Yes. Yes.
You got 8 in one hand and half done in another. Something like that. This
Six in one
6 in
hand and
one hand,
half
eight,
done.
whatever you want to call it.
Okay.
All right, okay. See, that's different right there. 8 in one hand, 6 in the other.
I love you.
It
I
don't make no
love you.
difference. She said, if you do that again, she said, I'm going to dial 911 and have the police come and pick you up. We was in the car. So I did it again. But before I did it again, she'd already said that. And I looked around, the police done already drove her up before I could do it again. So I,
You thought they were coming to get
I
it.
thought I said, oh, but what I did, I passed gas, see, and in the car, and all the windows was up. And she said, if you do
You
that
did
again, I'm gonna
again,
put you in jail. Well, it's too late. The police
I'm
drove
gonna
up right.
dial 911.
Yeah. The
But
police used to ask me I used to go next door and call the police every weekend on my uncle to come and pick him up and put him in jail because he's abusive and mean. In this day and time, he would have been in jail. That joker took off running off Cherry Street around there like Groucho Marx walking, like the Marx brothers, you know.
The Marx Brothers, yeah.
Yeah, and Chico and all of them, Groucho and all of them.
yeah, some people are young.
Y'all don't know
what
anything
you
about that.
talking
But
about.
anyway, I looked around. He come back, and when he come back, I asked my aunt and the police. I said, "Are you gonna put him in jail?" The policeman said, "Well, you got to sign a warrant against
Take out a warrant
against
yeah.
him."
Mm-hmm.
And when he said, the police said that, my aunt was standing there, and I'm sitting looking. I was waiting for her to say, "Yeah, take that Negro down there and lock him up." She said, and froze right there. I want to smack her myself. I want to tell her, take her back in the house and beat her some more. Take her back in the house and beat her some more. And then when we leave,
We're being silly today.
yeah,
You
when
know
we
that,
leave,
right?
when we leave, going up the road to go to somebody's house to stay until he cool off, I look around and here come two headlights. They done he come up in there to her sister's house to pick us up. I said, the Negro just finished beating her. Now he gonna come and pick her up and ask him, what did you know what you did? I ain't never done nothing like that. His mind was screwed up and messed up. From a childhood, he got burnt playing around a stove and burned his hair. First and second degree burns. Now here he grown and still living. He couldn't even go to school as a little boy. He had wrapped up head. His brain was burnt. And his brain was cooked. And if he was critically, now watch this now, he was disturbed by that incident. It messed him up.
Mm-hmm.
And if he didn't get the right mind, if God didn't have enough mercy on him,
Mm-hmm.
it ain't no way he gonna be able to change.
So what you're saying there is that based on our things, the things we go, the conditions we're under, the things we experience in our lives, that dictates the behavior,
The results.
and so a lot of the things that we're experiencing even now in this path that we're on is because of the conditionings that we've had.
You
The decisions are made out of those conditionings. Reactions come from those conditionings.
you have never been evil.
Right.
You have never been angry.
Right.
You've never cursed anybody out or cursed anybody out. You never bound and loosed anything. You never told anybody to kiss your back end till you got tired, and you never cussed the preacher out. You never put curses on people. That is the result of somebody who is not truly their real self.
And who's in pain,
trying
to endure the pain.
Yes, and it's messed up.
And survive through it.
And ain't nothing going to straighten it out but a different identity.
Yes.
I don't know why I had this image and this thought when you were saying that, but when you said that, for some reason, it reminded me of the story of Frankenstein.
Oh, yeah.
And how that, Dr. Frankenstein created the monster or a different identity. And so that's when you mentioned all that about never being evil and so forth. That is that part that in our environment was created to represent us, which was not really us.
Mm-hmm.
And so forth. And so it's like we all have this monster or this side of us that is not really who we are. But it's in this realm, it's the part that seem more people are exposed to, and so forth. And so I can see that when Dad was saying that, and I don't know why that came to me. That's almost like creating your own Frankenstein monster.
It is. It is. Yes. Yeah. Yes. And yeah. And Buzz says everyone has a good heart. Our minds screw us up. Yes.
Exactly.
Buzz, let me tell you something, Buzz. let's just take it all away. A good heart is okay, but it's got to go beyond a good heart. I saw a man come over here to my house, and I told you guys about it. 2 times it happened. This man came to my house to fix my Jeep, and he started telling me about an incident that happened to him when he was a little boy trying to teach his half sister how to drive a golf cart.
Mhm.
He said, what could I do as a little boy, 6 and 7 or 5 or 6 years old, to teach her how to drive a golf cart? But he said a big truck was coming behind him and on the highway. So they pulled over to the side to let the truck by, and they waved at the man in the truck, and the man waved back. He went on past them. He didn't run them off the road. They just pulled over. But he said that man truck went on, and he was starting to off, and said he started to reach back in the back for something, and the golf cart got out of control and went across the highway down a giant cliff. He said his sister jumped out of it, but he was stuck in it and couldn't get out. And in the air, he changed positions with that golf cart, and he hit the ground. And when he did, the golf cart landed on top of him.
Oh,
Bent
wow.
up. He was laying there, so it tore his face up. He had to have his mouth rebuilt, his jaw rebuilt, and blood was coming from everywhere. While he was there, he looked up, and here come the man. Here come the man who was driving the truck that was gone past him. He come back. He said that man was the biggest man he had ever seen, the biggest, hugest arms that he'd ever seen. Said that man took one hand, picked that golf cart off up in the air off of him, and set it to the side and pulled him out from under it. Fixed him in a position, walked off, and disappeared.
Wow.
While he was there, a lady come walking down a trail close to where he hit, and she was a nurse, and through her, she secured his blood in time enough to call the ambulance to come and get him to help him.
Wow.
When they took him to the hospital, Lord have mercy. They took him to the hospital, and they were working on him to get him his blood stopped and to fix him back, put him together. All of a sudden, while they were taking myelograms and x-rays and all that, they discovered a death-defying, so many weeks, months to live, cancer all in his chest. Eat up.
Wow.
As a boy. He didn't know it.
And would not if the accident
And-
hadn't
The
happened.
accident was there. Now listen. I told this man about his daddy, deceased on the other side he went. And I told him what his daddy was telling him, and I described him what his daddy was doing before he died and after he on the other side, before my wife come out. That man is about 7 feet tall over me.
He was.
I look like a little Daffy Duck.
He's a
in front
very
of him.
tall man. Yeah. very tall.
Wow.
And the man said, please let me hug you. He come down out of his height and shoulders and hugged me. I had to push myself away from him. He didn't have no mask on, and I didn't either. And I said, my God, I don't want that damn panic all over me. So he grabbed me.
He grabbed you twice.
He grabbed me right now, holding, shoot my friend, but he was holding the hell out of me. And he was grabbing me and holding, and I'm trying to push him back, and he wouldn't let go. And I said, oh, Lord, here we go again. Then he got away from me and started talking, and I looked at him again, and I told him some more about what his daddy is, and he burst out crying again and did the same thing again.
But in all of that you just said, what it says to me is, as tragic as that incident was of him coming up, going over the cliff and having that golf cart land on him and tearing his face up and all of this, as tragic as that was, it was orchestrated. The people that were there to help him everything was put in place, positioned. it happened to discover the cancer. All in
Exactly.
so to look at that from the through the eyes of or the lens of conditioning and through the lens of right and wrong and
Mhm.
good and bad, you would say that was a terrible thing to happen,
Mhm.
but it
Exactly.
was a blessing for that to happen. and
Hmm.
and he was divinely taken care of.
Mhm.
That's what I keep saying, that we are being taken care of.
Yes.
This
Yes.
whole thing is being orchestrated by someone that's greater than these human bodies and minds.
In the
It's
classes,
amazing.
Pastor, before we got out of brick and mortar, one of the things I always wanted to teach the classes, and I do it spontaneous, is how to alter their eyes and see the spirit world.
Hmm.
It is absolutely beyond words to describe the ability to do that. I used to think that I had to have God to come on me and overwhelm me with his presence.
Mhm.
When I found out that I was his presence, I didn't have to get nothing or anything.
Mhm.
So here I go. I done talked to another lady. We getting ready to go out to eat again. We eat all the time, look like. And I went to this. We were going to one place, and she said, "Have you ever eat there? You know, we want to get a sandwich at that place." I said, "Yeah, we go there." I went there. So this young girl was waiting on me, and as she was waiting on me, she said, "To go or to eat here?" I said, "To go." So she went on back in the back, and this other lady came to the cash register, and I looked at her, and immediately I knew she was the manager over the store. I told her who she was. And I said, "Did you all have any trouble with the pandemic or the damn panic to shut down?" She said, "Well, we lost staff, but we still going." And she told me where this store used to be in Winston and how many people that they lost since the pandemic. And she began to talk to me about church. I said, "Well, do y'all be open on Sunday?" She said, "No." I said, "I'm going to church." And that was the trigger. That was the clue that kicked me off to talk to her about. I said, "Well, we had to shut our church down and sell all the furniture and equipment and everything. And we're doing things, church online, like we're doing now." Make a long story short, I began to tell her about who she really was as a actual reincarnation of Jesus Christ. I told her that. I looked up Pastor Norman, and she was doing the same thing that other man did. This woman was standing there, and I couldn't tell because I was so busy looking at the picture I saw in the spirit world. And I'd come to myself and I looked. This woman was standing there with tears coming down her eye, like somebody had a water hose just squirted over her head.
Hmm.
And she said, "Thank you. I don't want to change anybody." That was a revelation revealed to me yesterday when we was online
With the door, with Deborah. Yeah.
with Deborah. She can hear me now.
Mhm.
I heard the inward audible voice of God translate to me inside my heart. She was listening to us. The impact of that voice, one voice, many suits, many head, but one voice,
Hmm.
told me the definition, explained to me something about Jesus' feet, his sandals, and why we saw him like that. In a second, he explained it to me. I wasn't expecting it.
The ability to know truth
To know real truth. And
and
I can tell you about it later on.
discern between truth
Yeah.
and falsehood. Yeah.
I experienced in a second of 50 years of waiting for him to explain to me why did I project sandals on his feet. And every time I put sandals on his feet,
This is when we saw
when
him
saw
come down the
Jesus,
stairs. Yes.
and then I put him on, he'd take them off. I put him on 3 times and he took them off. He voiced me. God voiced at me while we were talking to Deborah. And he spoke so clear in here. I never have to ask him again what he did that for her.
Mhm.
He explained to me, and I'm going to tell her more about it as we go later on, because I've seen some more about what he showed me.
Okay.
Pastor Norman, that voice that I heard was my true voice, your true voice.
Mhm.
Everybody in the universe spoke to me from that one voice. It was the voice that is in the hospitals. It's the voice that's in the direct cars. It is the voice that's in every situation right now. That voice never will depart from the universe
Yeah.
because it
Yeah.
speaks when it is necessary.
Exactly.
I cannot fast and pray and make it speak. I cannot pray in tongues 50 hours a day or week and make it speak.
Mhm.
I've been praying in tongues ever since I was in this thing and found out about it. And I hear him all the time. I can tell the variations of his voice and what's going on. But this time, yesterday, when he spoke that to me, it was so doggone refined, sharpened, finished, and complete.
It's something about hearing the voice
Mm-hmm.
that it soothes everything in you.
I wish everybody in the world
And
could
it
hear it.
calms everything
I
in
wish
you.
everybody in the world could hear it.
It calms the mind completely. The voice itself just calms the mind.
If they hear that voice, they will not have to ever again try to change anybody.
Exactly.
That's the only voice that will change people.
Mhm.
I not saw you,
Mm-mm.
not what I preach, not what I teach, not what I see or not see, what I hear or not hear. Let me tell you something. That voice that spoke inside of me yesterday,
And
if I want to hear God, I know where He is.
and it's more than being led.
Ain't no being led in.
It's not a being led. It's
No.
it's
Ain't nothing to do
when
with that.
God actually talks to you.
It's not going to another church. It's not a revival. It's not a consecration. It's not looking for a mentor. The mentor is inside of you.
It's
Yes.
it's not about guidance. It's not about
Not
being
about that.
led,
Nope.
but it's about just hearing God speak inside yourself.
Mhm.
And it's like you're the temple and God is just speaking in the temple.
It's like all of a sudden, Pastor, bam, I'm sitting here. Deborah was on the other end. It hit me. I wasn't thinking about it. He explained to me 50 years of waiting.
So much. Yeah.
Coming down those stairs, we saw him. You heard me talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And
And I saw it.
and when you hear the voice, it's like you see everything
You
clearly.
hear, see, feel, know,
Everything. Everything is clear.
everything stops.
Exactly.
Inside you, it stops. It takes presence over everything.
Presidents, yes.
That takes us to the place of understanding even more about being still and know
Oh Lord.
that He is God. And that's why many of us don't hear the voice is because we got too much going on, and
And
we don't be still within.
yeah, and something Deborah said on yesterday, and I don't remember how we got to this point in the conversation, but there are too many of us living by our imaginations. And it's when you were talking about how when you saw Jesus, you tried with your imagination to put sandals on his feet,
Mhm.
and then he would take them off.
He take them off.
So it was that process of putting it on with your imagination and him taking it off that showed you the difference between what is true and what is by imagination. And too many of us who say we're hearing God and
Mhm.
say we're receiving from God are only hearing and seeing our own imagination.
Part of
Exactly.
what he said was this. I showed you this because, and I'm not going to add the rest I want to it. He said, I showed you this because I wanted you to, and that was it. That was first part of it. He said it. I've heard him for years, but this time it was totally different. It was a fresh breath of air.
That's what it does.
Mhm.
And I heard it so clear
refreshes,
that
yes.
it was like my heart. Now he's going to explain some more to me. I know that. But it took 50 years for me to get to a place with Deborah on this line. He used her yesterday online. He used her contacting us and waited till we got on this thing with her before he explained to me in ABC
Yes.
1, 2, 3 words.
Yes. And you know, our time is
Lord have mercy.
oh, oh.
But before you climax everything, Mom, it's something that y'all just said about the imagination, and that's what we all need to understand. Everything in this world and even in our own world has all been created from an imagination.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
what we think, every form, just like he was talking about putting the shoes on Jesus, but he had take them off because that was the imagination that was putting the
Mm-hmm.
shoes on him, and that's what we are dealing with, the images that we are projecting, and we're actually thinking it's coming from somewhere else, but we are actually the one that's projecting everything that we're encountering and what we're going through in our own life. We have become the
Exactly.
author of that movie.
Exactly.
I want to talk to my wife here about it, um, but I'm in the marinated state of what he said to me,
Mm-hmm.
because what he said then yesterday while I was online, it was like, it's like an odor when it gets into the furniture.
Mm-hmm.
It leaves the smell evidence there, so
It's still
it's
speaking.
still speaking. The
Mm-hmm.
voice don't never quit, but it's still speaking inside of me.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, "This is it."
Or
I
as
said, "He just confirmed to me."
or as Deborah mentioned on yesterday, it's a download.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. And you're
Mhm.
still getting the
and I'm still
download.
getting.
I
I'm,
use
Still
that
getting
quite
the
often.
download.
Yes, a divine download. That's I use
and
that a lot.
when he said that, he said, now in that he said, "This is the way the gospel is to be preached."
Vincent says believing is seeing, just like when you pray believing, stay in truth. Yes, sir. Believing is seeing. And when the voice comes or speaks, there is a great seeing, isn't there?
Yeah, you know what got me about it? What I heard didn't come from somewhere.
Right.
It didn't come from nowhere.
It wasn't a
It it
remote,
it,
it
it was.
wasn't a remote
It didn't come
voice.
like from you over there on that side over here,
Yeah.
or Deborah up there, and she down. I'm down
Yeah.
in Jersey here.
Yeah.
It wasn't like that.
It's not a remote voice.
It was in the voice he said. Here's what he said: "I am here.
It's a very imminent
I
voice.
am you."
Not just a present voice, but it's an imminent voice.
He said, "I am speaking this to you from inside yourself."
And this is the thing. The voice talks sometimes without language.
Just, I keep telling about the word, creating the world.
Here goes
Creating the
Without
world.
language.
He said, by word, he created, but what kind of word?
Yes.
But see, that's why I love that the way that particular scripture was mentioned. It didn't say be still and hear God. It said be still and know that he is God. And even as Dad was sharing just now, again, that's what happened to Elijah when, of course, he escaped, ran away from Jezebel and entered into the cave. He was looking for God to visit him in
Mhm.
such a dramatic way, in
Yeah.
the wind and the
Mm.
fire and the lightning. And that's what people are looking for, that outside experience, when we must understand the experience that you're going to actually have with him is here in you as you. That's the experience that you really, and it's not a dramatic event. It's a stillness actually.
Without language.
He
In
speaks.
fact, God created the whole earth without language. If there was a creation at all, it was done without language. And that God that did that is the God who has seen itself as the many, and now it's the many seeing itself as the one.
We are the first person word of God that was speaking out of Jesus' mouth, and from Genesis to Revelation, we are the voice of God in first person, first class, not second, third, fourth, fifth, or sixth. We are the first sound of the voice of God inside our essence.
Mhm.
As the essence that we are the voice of God speaking through and around all wilderness and
Hmm.
darkness. So the next time God say anything, it comes through us, whether my ears hear it or not. If he's right now in the universe, God is speaking. We may not hear it with our middle ear, but regardless, I'm in a point to know that there's a different type of knowing
Mhm.
of God than in the book.
Yeah, it
Hmm.
is. It is.
There is
It
a book
is.
that can burn, but I've experienced, I and you and everybody else of essence, we've experienced the most tragic thing that could ever happen to a man. We have experienced this. At the
Hmm.
cross, they nailed us there, but we've experienced more than that. We were experiencing what David said, if I'm in hell, he's there. The worst thing could ever be done to a man brutally, pulling his limbs off and stretching him wide and pulling him and grinding him up in a machine. That ain't worse. The worst thing a man could do is to feel like he's separated
From God.
from God.
Hmm.
That's the
Exactly.
worst thing in the world that ever happened to a man. And that voice that screams loud and says, God is here, is the voice that we've been using from day one. And we'll never stop doing it.
Yeah.
You'll never stop. You'll never stop saying the name Jesus, even if you don't open your mouth.
Hmm.
You'll speak that word 24/7. You'll speak that name 24/7 by birth. I am a Sawyer by birth, and I ain't going to tell you that I am a Rockwell or Armstrong. I ain't going to change my name because yours is different.
Exactly.
Jesus is not going to change who you are just because you something bad happened to you, something ugly, or because you just all of a sudden you can't get there yet. All of a sudden you ain't had enough change, you ain't have enough Bible. All of a sudden you can't get there because you don't quite understand it. That ain't excuses, excuses will not remove you from knowing that Jesus Christ is your true identity.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wow. Wow.
Hmm.
Good conversation
We'll
today.
rest our case.
Good conversation.
I'm gonna have Permation do my case.
Good conversation.
Yes,
And
sir.
we hope you guys got something out of our
Yes,
conversation
yes, we
today.
hope you did.
We enjoy these conversations, and I hope that you do. And we look forward to.
Can I say this to Brother Norman?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you know I am completely delivered from believing?
Yes.
Delivered from what now?
I am
Believing.
completely
Delivered from
I
believing.
know that I am completely delivered from faith and trying to believe.
We don't live in the land of belief anymore. We live in
But
the land
see,
of knowing.
I don't.
and I ain't gonna start a whole new whatever, but it's funny that you said that because, and I mean, really, it's funny that you said that because I've shared this and I've caused some people that I can say this to, um, to think about what I'm saying. But I said, let me ask you a question: When is faith not when is faith not a necessity? And I leave it like that because I've come to realize there is something greater than faith.
Yes.
Thank you.
Faith is only a necessity
Thank you. Thank
when
you.
you are ignorant of the fact of who you really are.
Yes.
Listen to this.
Yes.
Because faith
Yes.
is always trying to accomplish something.
Yeah.
You know, faith
And
without works is dead. So I'm always trying so hard to prove my faith and so forth and so on. And that's where Creflo Dollar was saying that is a form of self-righteousness.
yes.
You're
Yes.
always trying to achieve something where all you have to do is accept. You
Yes.
see what I'm saying?
Yes.
And
Yes.
if you're always trying to achieve, that means you never accepted the reality of, hey, and it's hard because when we understand there is no true language, that is why it's hard for us to form words or expressions to give a description of something that is really no experience. It just is.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Jesus,
Yes, sir.
I see you sitting here beside me, And I want you to know that I acknowledge your presence with the suit of my wife in. And I acknowledge you through everybody on this class that you're them. Now, I ain't gonna say no more to you about it. But the next thing I say to you, it will be through conversation.
All right, Linda. She says, "Love you all. Have a wonderful day. Love,
All
lots of
right.
love,
Keep your nose
Lots of
clean, your
love.
britches
lots of
on.
love, lots
Hey,
of
I'm
love,
gonna change that. Lots of love. I'm gonna tell
lots of
everybody
love,
that do not me laugh out loud. Lots of love.
Okay.
lots of
Keep your
love."
nose clean and your britches on and don't take no wooden nickels.
Uh-oh. Okay.
Yeah.
Bye, you guys.
Love y'all.